Our coverage of Colorado First tonight starts with the story we continue to learn more about: the death of a pregnant woman and her 2 young daughters. The husband of Shanann Watts, the father of those 2 little girls, has now been charged. His charges include first-degree murder.
Christopher Watts expected to appear in court again tomorrow. Our Dylan Thomas live in Greeley, and Dylan, District Attorney just made that announcement.
And we're just now learning that the affidavit says that Chris Watts was allegedly having an affair with a coworker before this all went down. He was arrested last. However, it wasn't until today that charges were filed, and these are the charges that he is facing. The district attorney filed 9 felony charges, including murder, murder by a person in a position of trust, unlawful termination of a pregnancy, and tampering with a corpse. Shanann's father spoke briefly this afternoon and thanked the community for their support.
We would like to thank everyone in the Frederick Police Department and all the agencies involved for working so hard to find my daughter, granddaughters, and Nico. Thank you, everyone, for coming out to the candlelight visual and saying all your prayers. They are greatly appreciated. And keep the prayers coming.
And when you hear that reference to Nico, that is the mother's pregnant. When she was pregnant, that was the child that she was carrying. Shanann's brother was also there. The crimes are not only tough for this family, but it's also been tough on the community as well.
Hey guys, so I'm here with my little munchkins. Hi.
For those who knew Shanann Watts and her daughters Bella and Celeste, the unanswered question of why is almost as painful as the grief. Friends and strangers have left many flowers, toys, and candles. They lead all the way up to the family's front door. Ashley Bell was the last person to see Shanann alive.
Because they didn't deserve any of this.
Court documents say Shanann's body was found in a grave in girls' bodies on a property father worked, submerged for days in storage tanks filled with crude oil. And court documents filed by Watts' attorney suggest the girls may have been strangled. The defense asked the judge to take a DNA swab of the necks on the remains of the 2 children.
He's the best thing that has ever happened to me.
Shanann first met her husband after a mutual friend connected them on Facebook.
They seemed very happy.
Shanann's brother took to Facebook over the weekend, writing, "I've never been so mad, sad, enraged, hurt, heartbroken, lost, and shocked in all my life."
Once again, we are learning, according to the district attorney's affidavit, which was filed, that Christopher Watts may have been having an affair with a coworker. However, at this time, we do not know what led up to the deaths of the children and Shanann. At the same time, the children's death date was listed as early as last Sunday, whereas Shannann's was listed as early as Monday. So it isn't clear if the children died before Shanann. Reporting live in Greeley, Dylan Thomas, covering Colorado First.
Dylan, thank you.
All right, so welcome back, everybody. This is Watts the Obsession, and tonight we are talking about the Chris Watts case, the tragic deaths of pregnant Shanann Watts, Bella Watts, and Celeste Watts back in August of 2018. And thanks in part to moderator Jody is cool, we're going to be doing a classic Watts live stream, meaning just going over some of the basics of this case. Now, when I say basics, don't get turned off by that if you're really into this case, because as we go back and review some of the basics, there is always new information and new talking points within that. For example, when we were just listening to that news clip just a moment ago, I caught, and I've heard this before and it's registered before and we've considered it before, but it's been a really, really long time, that the reporter said that the children's death dates were listed as early as Sunday, and Shanann's was as early as Monday morning. So, what's up with that discrepancy, right? So now, being for the most part people who have studied this case quite a bit, and if you're new, welcome, and hang in here. We will get you caught up some way, somehow. It's a very layered case. We know that there are questions, even based on Chris Watts' own statements himself, mostly that is in the form of those letters to Cheryl and Cadel, and some things that have been said since he's in prison. There are speculations and his own statement of his attempt to take his own baby's lives that Sunday night before. Sorry, my mom just texted me. Sorry, it threw me off. Quiet, Mom. Love you, Mom. Before Shanann came home, perhaps. And so, just picking up those little things, I think really, speaks a lot to some of the details that maybe have been overlooked, but certainly in general, just to all of the details that are critical in this case. And Sub Rosa knows exactly how I feel about this. Justice starts with removing District Attorney Rourke. Well, I personally need to give an amen to that. And if you're not sure why that is, please watch my 2 recent videos. The thumbnails like Bombshell Part 1 and Part 2. And they're entitled, Nicole Kessinger was more involved than you know. And really, it's all about Nicole Kessinger's relationship with law enforcement and how they protected her. And in my opinion, they protected her they favored protecting her over finding complete justice for these victims, for Shanann, who was 15 weeks pregnant, Bella, and Celeste. And that is a true tragedy. So welcome to everybody who's here. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome, moderators. Thank you so much. I couldn't do without you, and you guys are amazing. Welcome, subscribers and members. Oh, geez, we have a new member. Thank you, Otis's mom, for becoming a member. That's awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And also, thank you, Sub Rosa, for the super chat. And those of you who are just hanging out, watching up in the rafters, come on down, comment. Your opinion is welcome, I promise. We just ask that you remain respectful to the victims' family members, and to one another. Respect is important. Other than that, your opinion is your opinion, and we respect your opinion. So it's all good, right? So everybody, please just do me a favor. Hit like so those notifications go out and more people can join us this evening. So I actually want to take a look at, it's just the last, I think it's 2.5 up to 3 minutes of one of my most recent uploaded videos, which is the Bombshell Part 2 that not a whole lot of you have watched. So I don't know if a lot of you have seen this. So if you haven't watched it, definitely go check it out. I promise you there's really interesting stuff in there. But I think this part at the end is compelling. Let's see, where did it go? There it is. Oh, you know what? Ooh, I moved it to another point in the video that I do want to watch. Okay, so first, we're going to take a listen to, because we're going to be looking at neighbor Nate Trinistech, the Watts neighbors at the time of this tragedy. We're going to be taking a look at some of the video camera footage that was recorded from his house of the Watts driveway. And as you probably know, there's been tons of speculation about who we can see in that video footage and what exactly is going on. So let's hear what Nate Trinistech himself had to say about, that footage. This is from an interview with Dr. Oz.
Chris was real quiet. He would always wave or I'd sometimes talk to you, but he was you could tell he was kind of standoffish. There was times when he just didn't want to wave or didn't want to say anything, but usually he was nice. And Shanann was always really friendly. She came over, welcomed us to the neighborhood. The girls were always running around, laughing, having a great time.
So nothing seemed out of the ordinary?
No, nothing at all.
And when you first looked at that security footage, and you saw that this truck had backed up in the morning that they disappeared, you never saw the kids leave or Shanann, but you saw the truck back up. What did you think he was doing?
He said he was loading tools, but I thought that was a little bit odd because I had never seen him really back his truck into the driveway ever. He always parked it out front. So I definitely thought it was kind of odd. And then when you saw him loading stuff into the cab of the truck and never anything into the back, I really thought that was definitely odd.
Is that when you began to think maybe those are bodies he's actually loading into his truck?
I don't know if at that point in time I thought it was bodies, but at the time I thought stuff wasn't adding up.
So you showed the footage to the police, right? and then you showed it to Chris Watts.
Yep.
And that encounter, I should point to everybody, was recorded. You know how police have those body cams? So police officer body camera recorded this. So take a look at what that camera showed.
And this is him at 517.
Usually park out there on the side when we get everything back in. Be easier to loading everything out there, all the tools that I had to bring in. What else can I do with this?
My detective just showed up, so he'll probably want to talk to you.
I have your part right here.
Yeah. So someone,
See if
I can
anything
see where someone
happens.
tried to jimmy with a flathead screwdriver.
Oh, it'll pick up anything coming down the street this way.
You know where that tree is?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Watch, I'll show you.
So we're all watching that behavior that you were there for. What did you think of that encounter with Chris?
It was definitely very odd. I'm more of a watcher. I watch people more than, talk to everybody. I kind of sit back and watch. So to see him putting his hands on his head and see him nervous, looking around, constantly on his phone. The other thing I thought that was definitely weird was he wasn't watching the footage at all. He would look at it for a second, then go back to his phone, or look at it for a second, then look away. And if my family was missing, I would be glued to that TV 100% to see if I could see absolutely anything.
Those are incredibly profound observations. That's right. I'd be glued, trying to get ahead of the case, not trying to keep up with it.
Yeah, I would have been on that TV seeing if there was anything that showed anything about my family. And the fact that he wasn't watching it at all, he kept looking up and looking around and petting my dog and stuff like that. I just thought that was odd.
Yeah. So, and one reason that this footage is so important is something that I talked about in the bombshell series, is that, and going back to what Sub Rosa said about District Attorney Rourke went with the story, and, you'll learn all about the timing that is so suspicious and telling if you watch those videos, and went to Shanann's family, telling them the story with certainty that he knew that Shanann, Bella, and Cece, their lives were all taken in that house, in those early morning hours, and then they were transported to Survey 319. Well, he did not know that. And also what you'll find out if you watch those videos is that he could have known that if the investigation and the prosecution had just chosen to analyze the evidence that they had already done the work of collecting, but in a very completely not understood by anyone move, they chose to not. They consciously chose to not. In fact, the words in the document are, the following are refused for analysis among the evidence collected. Refused. And they are all, collections of evidence from Chris Watts' work truck. So he says, in court at Chris Watts' sentencing that, the three of them were killed at the house. And, then there are statements from the family members, saying either, I've seen people arguing about whether, like Frankie said, that he saw the video of all of them being carried out to the truck, or if he just said something that made us think that he saw it. Whatever the case is, we're pretty sure now, according to Chris Watts, but, we can't take his word for anything, but also according to the actual evidence, we're pretty sure now we're positive that wasn't the case. But District Attorney Rourke went with that story, although it wasn't true. So Shanann Watts' family had to find out 3 months later, after CBI's Tammy Lee, FBI's Graham Coder, and Dave Baumhover of the Frederick Police Department went to Dodge Correctional Facility in February of 2019 to interview Chris Watts, where they learned the absolutely horrible experience, at least Bella had, that early morning. And, that's where I actually want to pick up. I'm just going to go ahead and move forward to that. In the very end of that part 2 video I just recently put out, I just want you to hear this. I think it's really important. Oh, man, such hard stuff. All right, hold up. Let me switch this here. Welcome to everybody who's coming in. I'm so glad you guys are here. Come on in, make yourselves comfortable. please join in on the discussion. In the discussion, we just ask that you remain respectful to the victims' family members, and please to each other. The end of Shanann, Bella, and Celeste's life. And we will be going deeper into that in the next 2 episodes of this series. In this Dr. Phil episode, we're about to explore a little bit. It was recorded right after Chris Watts' final confession to the 3 investigators when they went out to speak with him in Dodge Correctional Facility after he had already been charged, sentenced, and was no doubt spending the rest of his life in prison. Dr. Phil in this clip talks to Shanann's family's attorneys. He brings up the topic saying, we know that the other person in the investigation that was questioned was the mistress. Did anything actually come of that investigation in talking to the mistress? We will then hear what the attorneys had to say. And guys, it is very interesting. I don't know if you've ever heard this, but wow, wait until you hear this now.
Chris Watts is sharing new details about the night he killed them. An attorney for Shanann's parents, Frank and Sandy Rusick, told our Dylan Thomas his clients were briefed on the new information and were evaluating their next steps.
You need to pay attention to the fact that they say here that the family was evaluating their next steps. Dr. Phil asked the attorneys why investigators went to talk to Chris Watts in February of 2019.
As we expressed, it's our guess that there was another person they were looking into or investigating that would have required enough time to either determine if charges should be brought or if that was not an avenue to be explored. And we're unsure at this point if that's ongoing investigation or not, so we don't want to go too far down that road.
The Rusicks family attorneys offer an explanation of why the Rusicks may simply not care if law enforcement goes after someone else that may have been involved. I mean, think of Chris Watts' initial confession. He blamed Shanann for these atrocities. He blamed Shanann. The Rusicks family's main concern was to clear Shanann's name, and rightfully so. They probably felt after that happened, they could move on. The result of that interview in February 2019 from Dodge Correctional Facility is that Shanann's name was, in fact, cleared. The family attorneys say that with this confession, they hope that it can be known by all that Chris Watts did not walk in to find his daughter's lives being taken by the hands of Shanann. The attorney goes on to say, and man, I can totally understand this, and I so much feel for Sandy Rusick and the Rusick family, that the way the information is coming out now, rather than in a prolonged way, as it would in a trial when they had time to emotionally prepare for what they were going to hear, there's information coming out every 2 to 3 weeks. And it's making Sandy feel kind of angry. And my gosh, who could blame the woman? It's torture. The attorney then goes on to explain how the Rusicks went about making the decision that they did regarding the outcome they feel okay with there being a trial or not being a trial. Pausing that for a minute. This is so important, guys. I think this is so important here. The Rusicks experience, what they went through because of District Attorney Rourke's decision to tell them something that he knew was a product of the investigation that he really did not know, because they did not follow through completely with the investigation. Although the difficult part of what needed to be done had already been done, all they had to do was send this evidence to the lab to have it analyzed, and they chose not to. Based on that, or not based on that, he didn't know what was going on. He lied to the family. They made a decision, and they were ultimately hurt tremendously, immeasurably because of that. Going back to the video for a minute. Accepting Chris Watts' plea or not, and having death penalty on the table or not. And remember, the information that they were given from District Attorney Rourke upon which they made that decision was information that District Attorney Rourke himself was not even certain of, because they never analyzed the evidence that was found in the investigation. So the story that they based that decision on was that pregnant Shanann, Bella, and Celeste's lives all ended in the home. And then Chris Watts loaded each of them into the truck deceased, drove them to Survey 319, where he disposed of their bodies. But that is not what really happened.
That the family made the choice, whether you believe it's the correct one or not, to not pursue the death penalty. If it were me, I don't know how that would sit with me, knowing that she didn't know the full story.
And that might very well have changed the position she took, what she advocated for at the time.
All I can tell you is what I might do. It would definitely have changed
Well,
the calculus
isn't that
for
some
me.
egg in District Attorney Rourke's face? District Attorney Rourke relayed information to Shanann Watts' family based on an incomplete investigation, an investigation that he knew was incomplete, an investigation where evidence that was collected was not even analyzed. And based on that information, he asked Shanann Watts' family to make probably the biggest decision of their life so far. He stayed in their home for 3 days. After he found out some information that I talked about in the part 1 of this series, that Michael Prill indicated in his report in the discovery before the timeline, that not all of the material was found in Chris Watts' phone. In fact, he came across items from the secret calculator app, as he says, just as a result of curiosity. He says that the forensic lab didn't have whatever was needed to access those inner storage vaults of an iPhone. And now that he knows that there was a secret calculator app, that there are places within that phone that might exist content that is relevant to the investigation, his plan was, as he outlined in the discovery report, to obtain another search warrant that would soon be executed, and the investigation would continue on. The report was dated October 30th, 2018. Straight away, District Attorney Rourke and Steve Wren got on a plane to go to North Carolina to spend 3 days with the Rusick family. Upon their return on November 6, 2018, they struck a plea deal with Chris Watts. Isn't that interesting timing? We are going to tie all of the pieces together, what has been discussed in part 1, in this part of part 2, coming up very soon in the continuation of part 2. And when we conclude, we will be able to share with you the information that we learned. We're not even talking about that right now. It's a little bit of a sore spot for me, but yeah. So all of that, it's again, if you need to take that again, it's at the end of the part 2. Go ahead and watch it. I don't want to go over it all again because I know a lot of you did watch it, and Steve there probably isn't going to be anything too mind-blowing necessarily unless we come up with it together. I don't have anything specific to present to you tonight. We're taking a look back at the Watts Classic, but I'm so glad you're here. Was that Stevie that said that? Yes, I think it was. So I want to go to Muckboy's comment here. So Muckboy says, oh, Muckboy, thanks for letting me pick on you because that's what I'm about to do. We love Muckboys. He's the moderator for the channel. He's been with us forever, and we love Muckboys. Says, I just like Nate so much. I don't understand why. I love Nate. He wanted to insert himself so bad. Then he held footage till Halloween. Well, I just want to look at the facts about that, because if we look at the discovery here, and I understand what you're saying, but I don't think it's a matter of Nate holding footage till Halloween. Let's take a look at when the investigators actually asked for the footage from him. So remember, this tragedy happened on August 13th, 2018. So here in the discovery, this is the research I do really quick while you guys, in response to your comments, we have, it says, the following information was documented at the time it was gathered. The date of this report is not indicative of when the investigation occurred. On August 1st, I'm sorry, no, October 1st, a full month and 17, hold it, I've got a bunny chewing on something she shouldn't be. What are you doing? You can't chew on that, girlfriend. Oh. Just one second. Sorry. All right. You know, me and my bunnies. Okay. So a full month and 17 or 18 days after the tragedy happened, August 1st, 2018, I served a court order for production of records to Comcast Xfinity requesting any and all surveillance recordings captured by Nate Trinistich. Now, this is how this issue's come up before. We've looked into it thoroughly. This is how the investigators are supposed to go about obtaining such information. They don't take it straight from Nate's hands because there would be no way of knowing if Nate tampered with that footage. They need to get it straight from the source, and that is Comcast Xfinity, the company. Nate's home is located next to the Watts. Having not yet received the records from Comcast by, now it jumps forward to 10/24/2018. So they made an attempt to go about obtaining this footage in the correct way, going to Comcast Xfinity. I do not know what happened behind the scenes. I cannot possibly figure out how they did not produce that immediately upon the request. My God, like, look at what happened here. I contacted Nate via telephone regarding the surveillance video clips retained to his personal computer. Nate agreed to provide me a copy of the video clips and upload them to a flash drive I provided. It should be noted that prior to contacting Nate, I learned there were several more video clips retained by him that were not obtained previously. So maybe is that partly what you're referring to, that verbiage there? So, and then it goes on to saying, you know, he met with his wife, they handed over, you know, the footage. And that was, yes, Halloween, August 31st, 2018. Now, to me, all of that, you know, happening with them waiting until October 1st to approach Comcast Xfinity looking for the surveillance footage. I mean, did they wait too long? I know with cell phone companies, for example, you know, there's a life on the information that they can retain. Their policies are out there. Law enforcement should be intimately familiar with those policies. For Verizon, sometimes if it's after 7 days for certain information you're looking for, you're just shit out of luck. I don't know how it works with Comcast Xfinity and their, you know, security camera recording services for residents. But, you know, I think that's just how it went down. So I don't know. I just felt like I needed to jump in there and defend Nate, Muck Boys. But I'll come back and grab your last comment, your next comment there. Now, let's see. Lisa S says, and Trailer Trash Barbie said something about this as well. Cal, I never heard of this Ashley Bell. Last person to see Shanann, you know, in the very beginning news segment clip that I played, there's that person, Ashley Bell, who said she's the last person to see Shanann. That has been widely questioned. I think that is bogus. Other people have said so. I don't know anything other about you know, her statement in that news segment other than that, but super good catch. Cause yeah, like we don't know about that. I think she might've been being exaggerating or lying, or I don't know. I'm not sure, but really good catch. Good point. Okay. So now let's see what we have next. Okay. So before taking a look at some of that, you know, security camera footage, I just want to talk about the timeline of that week, the week of August 7th, 2018, which starts with the entire Watts family returning home from North Carolina, where, you know, Shanann and the girls had been for 6 weeks, or 5 weeks rather, and then Chris in the last week, so they'll be going into the 6th week, joined them for a week. They all returned home together on the same flight on August 7th. And as I'm going to be explaining here in this clip that I'm taking from, so also from the part 2 video, we're going to look at what happened that week. Oops, hold, I got a lot of videos lined up for you. I got to just find the right one here. Oh, is that it? No, what? Sorry, guys. I got to go back through my tabs. There it is. So Chris Watts. Okay. Yeah. All right. What? Chris Chris Watts, what the frick? This is so weird. It's showing, just give me 1 second here. Showing up in my tab right here. Chris Watts, mistress. Yeah. Let's do it like that. Okay. No, leave me alone. No. Okay, that's weird how it showed up. Okay.
This critical evidence that had already been collected.
Now, just to be clear on the timeline, it was on September 4th of 2018 that CBI refused to analyze that evidence that had already been collected from Chris Watts' work truck. This is just a few weeks after the murders occurred, and it's more than 2 months before Chris Watts struck a plea deal on November 6th, 2018, and it's about 2.5 months before Chris Watts was sentenced. So to say that the investigative clock stopped when Chris Watts pled on November 6th, 2018, it's just a lie. It's a misrepresentation. This evidence is critical evidence that would have revealed so much was refused for analysis on September 4th, 2 months before the plea deal. Sorry, I went to the wrong part here. Former Morris County, New Jersey prosecutor Bob Bianchi comments on the Watts case. This is from 2000 for different reasons. There we go. This is a day when... Sorry about that. So if you want to hear more about Bob Bianchi and all that, please watch the part 2. It's all in there. Okay. Jesus Christ, what? Everyone call me right now. Okay.
That Kessinger gave him an ultimatum on the night of the murders. It's your family or me.
Was there an ultimatum? Absolutely, there was. So as we start to take a look at exactly what happened in the days, in the weeks, and the hours that preceded this horrible tragedy that annihilated Chris Watts' beautiful family, let's take a look at the timeline that led up to August 13th, the day of the murders. On August 7th, 2018, the Watts family altogether flies home to Colorado from North Carolina.
Ready? Set. Hold on.
It is on the next day, August 8th, that Watts deletes his Facebook account. It is also on that next day, August 8th, that Nicole Kessinger makes a Google search, marrying your mistress. This day was significant to Shanann Watts for different reasons. This is a day when they were scheduled to go to the ultrasound where they would find out the gender of the baby. Now, this day ranges in experience so greatly between Chris Watts and Shanann Watts. I'm just going to go through all of the items on the timeline. At 7:24 a.m., Sarah Nudd, who's a friend of Shanann, asked Shanann if they were doing any better. Shanann replied, "No, it's so bad and I don't know what to do. He told me he doesn't want this baby and he's happy with just Bella and Celeste. He thought he wanted another one. I'm so sick to my stomach. Tried to have sex with him last night just to see if that would help him and he rejected me." Shanann said she hasn't cried this hard ever. Shanann added, "He said he feels like there's a lack of communication and it's not for me. I sent him 12 texts over the month begging him to talk to me. He fell asleep at 7 or 8. Shanann told Sarah, "I tried talking to him after rejection last night and me crying for an hour alone on the couch. He slept. I kicked his sorry ass out of the bed and I refuse to sleep on the couch anymore this week. Told him this morning not to come home today, and if he can't tell me the damn truth and what is wrong. Shanann continued. We are supposed to go to the ultrasound tonight, and he doesn't even want the baby. He'd abort it if I said it was okay. At 8:06 a.m., Shanann told Sarah he said he's not having an affair. Sarah asked if Shanann was certain of this, of him having an affair, and Shanann replied, honestly, no, but what else would make him do a complete 360? We couldn't get enough of each other before I left. At 8:52, Josh Rosenberg, Cassie's husband, asked Chris Watts if he's excited for the ultrasound. Today's the day, right? Watts replied he just returned to work and added, yep, today's the day. I'm excited. Watts confirmed that the ultrasound was at 7 p.m. At 3:11, Watts made an unspecified modification to Shanann's contact information in his work phone. Now, it should be noted that this is right around the time that he would get out of work, and he did end up going to the ultrasound, but he was hung out with Nicole Kessinger after work and stayed with her right up until the moment that he had to leave for the ultrasound. At 19:25, this would have been shortly after Chris Watts left her apartment, Kessinger searched Google on topics related to marrying your mistress, as I had just earlier mentioned. That was the day. So that is going on while Chris Watts is at the ultrasound appointment with Shanann to find out the gender of the baby. Well, they weren't going to find it out yet. Someone else was finding out. It was Nicole Atkinson. It was going to be put in an envelope, remember? And they were going to have that gender reveal party. So I think this is so important. On August 8th, the day after the whole Watts family returns home from North Carolina from visiting the family, the following things happen. Chris Watts deletes his Facebook account. On that day, Nicole Kessinger, that's the day where it says in Discovery, she Google searches topics related to marrying your mistress. What does that say about what Nicole Kessinger thought about her relationship with Watts? On that day also, we know from the geotab location information, and if you want to know more about that, I would suggest watching the channel Footsteps of Murder. She does a great job with that. I don't talk about it too much. I could insert into some of the videos now, but a couple other people have already done really good videos on that, and Footsteps of Murder just stands out in my mind. So definitely go check that out. So we know that Chris Watts went to Nicole Kessinger's apartment after work and stayed there right up until he had to go to the ultrasound appointment, which was at 7 p.m. Also on that day, I forgot to include in this video, it is almost certain that is the day that Nicole Kessinger gave a key to her front door to Chris Watts. So the 8th is on a Tuesday. In her interviews, Nicole Kessinger talks about seeing Chris Watts on that Wednesday and him coming over to her house. And that was the day that she gave him a key. She says Wednesday. I think she meant Tuesday. That's the only reason there's uncertainty. But it's almost certain that is also the day she gave Chris Watts a key. So on the 8th, Chris Watts deletes his Facebook account. Kessinger gives him a key to her apartment. Kessinger Google searches topics like related to marrying your mistress. And Chris Watts stays at Nicole Kessinger's house, according to the geotab information, for hours right after work, up until the moment he has to go to the ultrasound appointment with Shanann. I'm going to continue to play this here a little bit. I just wanted to make the point of how important the activities of the various people involved on this day are to the outcome in this case. So this next item on the timeline would happen after Shanann and Chris went to that ultrasound. So this is how things went there for Shanann. So at 9:54, Shanann told Utoff and Cassie Rosenberg, he said that we are not compatible anymore. He refused to hug me. Jesus. Said he thought another baby would fix things. He said he refused couples counseling. Shanann elaborated. He said a lot of time to reflect on his feelings, Shanann added. He said he's going to work it out, but she didn't know how or when he would agree to counseling. Her friends offered support and suggestions to work this out. At 9:57, Josh begged Watts, "Bro, I'm waiting patiently. LOL, don't leave me hanging." Watts replied, "LOL, envelope is sealed until next weekend." Josh asked if they were going to hold a reveal, and Watts said yes. At 10:19, Shanann told Utoff and Cassie, "I will fight for full custody." Shanann said Watts told her he does not want to divorce right away. So whatever's going on there at that house that night, there's a lot of back and forth between Shanann and Chris that we will never know about. We will never know those details, but it's clear that there were very confused feelings, I guess, on Chris Watts' part. And definitely, he was sending Shanann Watts mixed messages. And also, I want you to note the hour here. They've usually gone to bed by then. I mean, this is like late for them to be having phone activity. Well, unless it was Chris. I just wanted to answer Marco's question really quick here. Who is NA? Some of you may have been wondering that as well. NA is Nicole Atkinson. So that's Shanann's close friend, who was the one who initially made the 911 call for the wellness check when, she realized things were not kosher that morning. Chris with Nicole Kessinger, which was out of the norm. At 10:40, Shanann told the women, "I can't afford 3 kids alone in Colorado." Shanann said their current home loan is on Chris's name. Her friends rallied around Shanann. At 11:08, so this is getting really late, Shanann searched Google on topics like emotion-focused therapy and couples therapy. So she's still hanging in there looking for an answer to their problems. So remember, this is the same day, the day that they were going to the ultrasound, where the baby's gender was going to be found out and sealed for their gender reveal party. Also on that day, Chris Watts deleted his Facebook account, very curious. And Nicole Kessinger, while Watts was at the ultrasound after he left her place, was searching for marrying your mistress. Now, what does that tell us? At this time, she still knew that she was the mistress. So now we're going to move on to August 9th. A lot of people have gotten the details for this day for ironing out the timeline a little wrong, and that's because there are some incorrect notations in the discovery, like Watts took off from work that day because Shanann was flying to Arizona. That didn't really happen until the next day. So I'm just going to go through the basics of what was going on that day to straighten things out and to just give you the vibe of this all-important week, the week that they returned home, the Watts family returned home from North Carolina. At 2:54, so that's 2:54 a.m. So this Shanann's up in the middle of the night, obviously thinking about a lot of things. And it says, Shanann told Addie that Watts refuses to hold her. And he has told Shanann it's because he's not there. He can't. Shanann also told Addie, "I canceled the gender reveal. Nikki is going to tell me today. I need happy news right now." I said to him, "How is this a few months? We are so intimate and what I thought was in love when I left." He said he had a lot of time to think. Addie asked Shanann if Shanann has gone through Watts' phone, asking if he was having an affair. Shanann replied, "I did." He denied. "No, I didn't look. He's deleting messages from his dad, and I'm sure he's not that stupid." Addie noted, "None of this makes sense. It's not Chris." Then it's noted, frequently throughout the day, Shanann searched the internet for couples counselors. She also accepted a prayer chain focused on their relationship. Poor Shanann. It's 6:09 a.m. Shanann asked Watts, "Do you want to find out together with me tonight our baby's gender?" His reply is not found in his phone. It only exists in Shanann's phone. He started erasing things from his phone that were from Shanann, like almost completely during this week. We wonder why is that. So after she sent Chris that message, he said yes, and then Shanann loved, put a heart on the yes. At 9:20 a.m., a log entry appears for the secret calculator in Watts' phone. At 10:06, Shanann shared an ultrasound image of her newborn son with Sarah Nudd. So the day after the ultrasound, that was a very chaotic day as far as, the different things that were happening for Shanann and Chris. She woke up in the morning. It looks like she barely slept, thinking about this baby and how she could keep her family together. Now we're going to move on to August 10th, but I just want to note that they got home from North Carolina on August 7th, and Shanann left for Arizona in the early morning hours of August 10th, meaning that Shanann was only home for like 2 and a fraction of a day the entire time that Nicole Kessinger and Chris Watts apparently were dating. It seems that Nicole Kessinger had absolutely no tolerance for this, and we have to consider that Shanann's presence in Colorado during the time she was dating Chris, the man she was so possessive of, when the woman she was so jealous of was in town, it had a serious impact on her. Well, we know it did now. And she would go to extreme lengths to not feel that discomfort of Shanann being around her husband while Nicole Kessinger was trying to have a relationship with him. It's also very petty and selfish, and it is such a shame that these 3 beautiful souls and baby Nico lost their lives because of these horrible, ugly human feelings that Nicole Kessinger held in her heart and held in her mind. In my opinion, let's return to the timeline. Then in the early morning hours of August 10th, the Shanann flies to Arizona. Her friend Nicole Atkinson picks her up early in the morning. They travel to the airport together and they fly out to Arizona for their Lavelle Thrive business trip or getaway. You'll soon understand why it's significant to note that it is also on this day that Shanann mentions for the first time that we know of from the discovery the idea of moving to the realtor and Meadows. And this is just because she and Chris had discussed that their finances were out of control and they might have to move out of the house at 2825 Saratoga Trail. It is on Saturday, the 11th, that Chris Watts and Nicole Kessinger have their date at the Lazy Dog Cafe. It is at this time, and we are going to revisit this, that we learn through the interviews, through what Nicole Kessinger tells Kevin Kobach, that Nicole Kessinger presents Watts with a host of apartments that could be possibilities for he and his girls to move into. It is then on Sunday, the 12th, the day before the murders, that Nicole Kessinger sends texts to her best friend, Charlotte Nelson. And in these texts, for the first and only time, does Nicole Kessinger mention Chris Watts to Charlotte Nelson. So think about this. It's a day before the murders and 6 weeks after they've been dating, according to them, that Nicole Kessinger finally mentions for the first time Chris Watts, her new love interest, to her best friend, Charlotte Nelson. It is also on Sunday, the 12th, that the 111-minute phone call happens. I made a note here on my timeline that refers to the discovery, and the discovery says, Saturday, August 11th, continued. 4 minutes after Chris Watts leaves Nicole Kessinger's apartment, Nicole Kessinger Google searches the names Shanann Watts, Chris Watts, Ronnie Watts, 2825 Saratoga Trail. And after this timeline event, Nicole Kessinger disappears from the official timeline for 43 hours, not to appear again on that timeline until well after the murders have occurred. On August 14th, the day after the murders, we know by her own admission, Nicole Kessinger deletes all traces of Chris Watts from her phone. So let's take a much closer look at this accurate timeline.
And then the next day, I don't even know what days these were, sometime when he was out there.
Out there refers to the time when Chris Watts was in North Carolina with his family during the first week of August 2018.
He told me, we're putting the house up for sale as soon as we get back. And I was like, well, that was quick. And he was like, it's her, she's ready to go. And I was like, okay. And so I left it at that.
So the way Nicole Kessinger tells the story to investigators here, it's like, Chris Watts flies out to North Carolina, across the country, to see his wife and his children and their extended family, Chris's family and Shanann's family. And once he arrives out there in North Carolina to see his family, he's like, okay, well, this is done. This, separation that's been lingering for the past 6 weeks, as Kessinger and Watts would tell it with their timeline of when they met and their dating and courtship. That's just kind of been, kind of meandering along. But now that I'm across the country with my family in North Carolina, we've decided that we're going to kick into high gear. As soon as we get back, we're going to put that house up for sale. And she's like, okay, cool. All right, cool. That's what's up.
And then he got back and I started asking him, like, what are you going to do? Because the Colorado housing market is fire and you guys are going to sell this house like real fast. And I'm like, you need to start looking for a new place to live. And I'm like, where do you want to live? And I was really trying to help him out. I'm like, do you want to get a house? Do you want 3 bedrooms? So you have one and each of your girls have one. I'm like, do you want to, like do an apartment? Like, what do you want? Where do you want to live? And it was really exciting. Like, I liked helping him and I just wanted him to like,
Go in it, Cece.
This is just one of the many times that Nicole Kessinger mentions how helpful she was in assisting Chris Watts in finding a new apartment after he declared that he and Shanann decided that they were going to move their separation/divorce into high gear. And as soon as they returned home from North Carolina, boom, house was going to go on the market. She was very, very excited, clearly, to help him find a new apartment. But with those of us who have followed this case, what we know is Chris and Shanann didn't really decide that they were going to put their house up on the market while they were in North Carolina, at least not because they were headed for a separation or a divorce. Perhaps they did talk about their finances. In fact, we know that they did, but we know that there was never any discussion of divorce. So where did this all come from anyhow? Could it be the pressure that Nicole Kessinger applied before Chris Watts left for North Carolina?
Okay, so we're starting to get off topic of what tonight is about. So I'm going to stop there. So I really just wanted you to see that timeline that led up to the day when these horrible atrocities happened. And you guys bring up some really good points and have some really good questions in chat. Yeah, really good stuff. All right, now I'm just going to switch over to listen to Nicole Kessinger in her own words from her August 16th interview about just a couple things. Welcome to everybody who's here. I'm so glad you guys are here. Come on in, everyone get comfortable, and please feel free to participate in chat. We would love to hear what you have to say. Please just remain respectful to the victims, their family members, and to each other.
so sad and she's pregnant.
Now, I just want to note that prior to this breakdown, the question that Kobach asked her was about the 111-minute phone call conversation on Sunday night, August 12th, just hours before the murders.
And, on our end, we didn't.
They're so cute. They're so little. Like, wow. Why? How? I don't even understand how you could, like, bring yourself to do that to somebody who's, like, that big.
Oh, Jesus. Take a minute. Do you want to step out for a minute?
No, I just need to chill with my eyes closed for a sec. I still cannot believe this is happening. All right, let's keep going because we're just getting to like the meat of this whole situation.
Let's get to the phone call on Saturday from 9 to 11. What did you guys, or pardon me, on Sunday from 9 to 11?
Yeah, we talked a few times. So Sunday. I think so. I need to think. I can't even think.
Take a couple breaths and take a second.
Sunday night. I don't even know. I don't think I was like concerned about anything at that point.
You guys had had a nice meal the night before. You knew his wife was probably coming home late that evening.
Oh, you know what? I still don't remember what we talked about. I like honestly like we talked about so much random stuff. Like it's so hard to pinpoint some of these things. I don't remember what we talked about. I do remember that was a long phone conversation that we probably talked about all sorts of stuff. One thing I do remember though, that I didn't remember earlier when I was talking to Mark. So this is like where I'm starting to remember like little bits and pieces. I don't remember. Yeah, I know. So the phone conversation. I don't remember what was in the phone conversation. Probably nothing of relevance, to be honest with you. But usually he talks to me when he's like down in the basement in his bed before he goes to bed and before I go to bed. And I could hear the TV on, which I thought was kind of weird. I didn't ask him. I just heard it in the background. And I remember thinking, and it was like right before we got off the phone, I was like, why the hell is he up? And there's like no TV downstairs. So I was like, well, maybe, I don't know.
So no TV in the basement where he usually calls you from.
Yeah, and I don't know how many TVs they have. Like, I've never been in their bedroom. Like, I went upstairs once and it was like to their little playroom and I just like looked at it and I was like, that's super cute that your girls have books. And that was like it. And other than that, I have never been in any of those rooms in that upstairs. Like, to me, it was just like, you don't know. Like ever. I had no, so I don't know if he has any other TVs. I'm assuming by like how much other nice stuff they have in their house, it wouldn't surprise me. So I'm not quite sure what room he was in at that point. But I just remember hearing the TV and I was like, it was just weird to me because I was like, why are you watching TV right now? It is like super late. And that was the only thing.
And he had phoned you? Or were you guys already talking when the TV was going? Or
I just remember like I picked up on it like later, but I don't think it was like throughout the whole conversation.
Okay.
Like I just remember it being towards the end because I remember thinking like, wow, it's really late.
The something I didn't ask you about the house because you'd been there twice and it just made me remember. Do you remember how you guys accessed the house?
That's a good question. So once through the garage, and I think once through the front door. I think the first time was through the front door, I think. And I think the second time was through the garage.
Was there anything unique about either of the doors when you went into the house that might not be typical of another house?
Like a unique door?
Not the door itself.
On their door.
Okay,
I mean,
there's a
that.
camera on the which door?
It's on the front door, isn't it?
I don't know. I'm asking.
I think so.
Okay.
I don't know.
Did he use a key to access the house?
No. He did not. The first time I went over there, he just let me in. And then the second time,
Excuse
so
me,
I didn't know what room he was in, but I was just like,
blah, blah, blah.
Go on Monday morning?
No, I don't ask him.
Okay, so this is the part where I just recently had this revelation that, I always was like thinking, I was always thinking that neither Chris nor Nicole ever said a damn thing about what happened that 111-minute phone call on Sunday night. But Skanky Empanada actually did, and this is what she says. Interesting.
Same thing. We just talk. It's like a really chill thing till one of us.
We're getting
about
there.
to pass out, and then that's like the end of it. But it was strange because I was like, the TV's on. I remember I was thinking, I was like, maybe he's waiting up for her, and then I was like, maybe not. I didn't know. It wasn't something that like alerted me. It was just different from his standard operating procedure because whether his wife is home or she's gone, he's always got kind of like the standard op when he calls.
Although we know that's a bullshit statement because according to Chris and Nicole in their 6-week relationship, Shanann was only home for 2 1/4 days. So Nicole Kessinger saying whether his wife is home or not is just a ridiculous statement. She was not home for the entirety of their relationship except for that 2 1/4 days, at which time, in my opinion, Nicole Kessinger became so enraged and was so intolerant of the fact that his wife was around that shit had to go down and now. And that's why this family's dead. In my opinion.
Calls me. So that's why it was kind of like unique.
Okay.
Because it doesn't really fluctuate when she's there and when she's not there. He's pretty like free reign with what he does.
So anything important that you recall during that conversation about the children, about his wife, about what he was doing the next day, what he had planned, anything like that? Did he tell you any of that information?
I remember he told me he had to go to the field and not to the office on Monday morning.
Okay. Did he specifically say where he needed to go on Monday morning?
No, I don't ask him for those sites. There's like Anadarko's got like thousands of sites. If he were to tell me, I wouldn't even
They're
know.
just like random numbers and stuff, right?
Well, he told me, he said, I got to go to a site. I got to go check out like a valve or something where they think that they had a release, something like that.
Did he mention the town or anywhere?
No. He just told me that that's what he had to go do. He's like, he was like, I won't see you in the office in the morning. Because I see him, but I don't actually like talk to him. Like I will go in the cafeteria, I will put my lunch in the fridge, and him and his whole team are sitting in there, and I don't talk to any of them. I just walk out. But anyways, yeah, he's like, so I won't see you. I'm going to the field, which is not an uncommon thing for the ops guys to like just go straight to the field. Like it happens. Like typically they go to the office, I would say like 3 or 4 days a week, but there are days where him and his other team members are not there. Or like I'll get in there and some days the cafeteria is packed and they're all there.
Okay.
And other days I get in there and there's only like 3 or 4 of them.
So it didn't cause you any concern that he said,
No.
I'm going to the field on Monday, I won't see you. That wasn't,
No.
that's
it
happened
didn't-
before.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
It wasn't something, and it's not just him. It's like that whole team. Like you can just tell when they've got like a lot going on because I'll walk in and there'll be like 2 of them as opposed to like 6 or 7.
Do you know what he did Sunday during the day?
I don't even know what I did on Sunday during the day. I am so tired. Let me just think about this. Daniel came over Friday. I hung out with him Saturday. And then Sunday,
When did Jim come in?
Monday.
Shut up, Dad. Free range.
What did I do on Sunday? I am like drawing a blank. I'm really tired. I don't know. Can I get back to you on that?
Did you guys have any conversations on Saturday night during your meal, what he might be doing on Sunday?
I'm sure we did. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank because I haven't slept.
If I say that he may have done something with his children, would that refresh
Yes.
your memory?
He went to a birthday party.
Okay, I get lost in this. I have to remember to cut off to stay on topic here. So now let's think about this. Well, I'm just going to play a video I made at some point of what I think might be possible that we see in that Nate's security camera footage of that possibly mysterious first person walking out of the garage. This is just one representation I made of it. I can see clearly in this. Some other people can't. You tell me what you think, but we'll look at some other things too. Of the person walking outside the garage.
So everybody knows this footage, and I was actually going to make a video calling out a trio of creators.
That was Red X, Dave, and Donjo,
who recently told the public that they had footage from Nate's security camera that was so clear that you could tell it was Nicole Kessinger, and it was so clear it would positively identify her. Therefore, they were advised by several attorneys that they could not release that footage. Well, this was like over 6 months ago, and they still have not released the footage. So I was making a video kind of calling them out on that because they and other people have been talking about the security camera footage a lot lately. And it was in doing that I happened to be working with different filters and enhancements on the video. And I actually came across something really interesting. And if you could let me know what you think, I'd really appreciate it. So here's a different treatment of this footage. So we're just watching the person walk out, obviously in slow motion. Now, what I need for you to think about is that this person actually
walks out of the garage, puts their right hand to the side of their head, maybe brushing back the hair, something like that, and is looking towards the left initially, and then looks kind of towards the security camera direction. There's going to be some still photos. So walking out, hand to hair, looks, keeps going. It's so quick because of that godforsaken bush. It's hard to see even in really slow motion. That's why I'm going to have still photos in a moment showing you exactly what I'm looking at. Looks. Can you see that? You might not be able to. It's okay. You're going to in a minute. Well, you're going to let me know if you do, actually. That's the whole point here. So I'm excited I can make a video for you guys finally. Looks. Ah! I swear you're going to see it. Okay. Let's see. I think the still photos are coming up. Okay. So there's the face. The big red arrow is pointing to the face. This person's face. Okay. So obviously you see the legs. You see the face. This big thing that looks like the sun here is the light outside of the garage. It's one of the reasons we can't see things clearly. This person has just walked past the cast of that light. Circled in yellow is the person's hand. So obviously the elbow is bent. The hand is up to the side of the face here in this still photo. It kind of looks like flipping or brushing hair back or something like that, Yep. So there's the hand next to the person's face. So see if you guys can see that. So between that light that looks like the sun and the tree, it's just a very small bit of space. So this is a different filter. So I know that this person is looking to her left as she walks out of the garage, and then also pointing out the hand on the side of her head. It's not as clear here because it's a different treatment. I think it's more clear here. I've circled basically the same thing, except this time her face is kind of turned more towards Nate's house. Do you see it? I need to know. Oh, look, I colored her face in peachy skin color to try to help you see. So I circled the figure here. So there's the face. I just have to pause to say I do understand that not everybody's complexion is peachy, and I am sorry if that offended anyone. So then you can clearly see where the hairline is, right? So here is the footage with an overlay of Miss Kessinger at the end of her video from August 23rd, 2018 with Agent Coder when she was exiting the interview room. The overlay slowly fades right on top of the image of the person walking out of the Watts family garage. Please leave me a comment, guys, and let me know what you think of this footage and this image. Okay, so what I want to know is, what do you guys think you see her there? Now, somebody keeps telling me that there's some footage they just watched recently but I heard a couple of you say that. So I'm going to try to find that really quick. But before I do that, let me just put on like the raw footage from you. And yes, all the people that are in like the Real Justice Camp or whatever, this is the footage directly from the digital discovery provided by law enforcement. And although I think they did a shit investigation in many ways, whatever. Yeah. Okay. And this is from the channel Louis Harrelson, who just removed like the time gaps and overlaps. Lucy Harrelson, it is. Okay. That's where I'm grabbing this one from because I like that she did that. Whoops, I didn't share it yet. Hold up. Okay. Okay, I found the video you guys are talking about. And the video was created by the creator Geneva, who, you know, back in the day before I even had a channel, and even since I've had a channel, certainly, has put out excellent, excellent content on the Watts case. I will go in after we're done here with the live and put a link to the channel in the description box so you can find Geneva. That's where the Z channel got it from. So I'm going to go straight to the source. And again, kudos to Geneva, really great channel. She's done a lot of hard work, as you're going to see here. So let's check it out. I don't know if I've ever seen this one. Maybe I have, I don't know. Let's see what it says. Oops.
During the walk, from the first walk that walked out,
Let me go
so
back.
all of us can try to decide if there were any accomplices on that fateful morning. I'm going to be comparing the walk from the first walk that walked out of the garage before Chris started loading up his truck that morning. So make sure you pay attention, because this is going to be a good one.
I'm sure it is, girl. She's great.
This is the walk I'm talking about. Here it is in slow motion. And here's a close-up of slow motion. Now here is walking into the interview room. And slow motion. And walking out of the interview room. And slow motion. Now let's do a replay of those. Now here's Chris at the gas station. And slow motion. Now let's compare.
Yeah, this is pretty great. I've never seen this video. I don't know how I have never seen this video. I'm so sure I had never seen this video though, but it's funny. I just started talking last night about how I was going to do the Watts Classic tonight, and we were going to look at that, you know, footage of NK walking out of the house. So it's funny how in the meantime, some other people are doing the same thing.
And replay.
Wait, is she saying that that woman there is Kessinger? Is that what is she saying? Because that's not Kessinger. That's the clerk, right? Yeah. I'm not sure if that's what's being said, but I'm not sure. I'm sorry. I just left to get a drink of water, so I'm not sure why we're watching this specific footage. But okay, I just wanted to say that. Okay, got you. All right. We're looking at him. Okay, got you.
Now I'm moving on to Chris's movements around the truck that morning.
Mm-hmm.
Comparing it and slow motion. Now, this part when she leaves, I found quite interesting. I didn't notice this before, but she says, "You think he's going to take this all the way to trial?" And he says, "I do right now." She says, "Have they done the discoveries yet?" He says, "No, they have some stuff." She says, "Do you think that's going to change when they get those?" And there was not enough time for him to reply back by her next question of, "Do they know I'm like one of your witnesses?" Basically trying to prove her point is that she wants to make sure in their eyes that she's not a suspect.
That time, if there's anything new, we can talk about it then. I do, right now.
Have they gotten no discoveries yet?
No. They have some stuff.
dispute though? Do they know that I'm like one of your witnesses?
Yeah, I mean, they have to know. Do they know what you said yet? No.
And for this reason, I wanted to point this out. When Chris walks away from his car door, it looks like he may have shut the door and the lights went out. But then when he's at the back of the truck walking towards the front of the truck, magically that door opens. How did that door get open and those lights turn on if he's in the back? So not only are we suspicious about that first person walking out the garage, because that shouldn't have been the first person walking out of the garage, because that camera had to be triggered by other movement for it to even come on. So it's possible Chris had already walked in front of the camera, triggered it, he gets into the truck, and then the second person walks out of the garage. I've explained this in my other video. Now we'll slow it down for you. Now, these are the screen grabs of these different footsteps, so we can see the gaits of these human beings, the footstep lengths, the leg lengths, just to compare and see if we notice anything different or similarities. Now, this part here is a little bit mind-blowing. So what I did here when the camera was zoomed in, I took this ruler and placed it right below that big light right there. And it's obvious that their head is in that light space. And just at the angle of the camera and how far away it is, we can't actually see their heads. But you know damn well we can see those black fucking sweaters. So I took it to the bottom of the light and I brought it down. Now what I want you to focus on is the end of the sweater. And where the arrow is, it's almost down to 3 inches long on the ruler itself, on the left side photo. And I made the other ruler a little bit lighter, that way I'm not covering up the rest of the black sweater. I'm covering up just lightly over the jeans. Now, if you look at the right photo, that black sweater extends a little bit longer, doesn't it? And remember, the photo on the left is when it was dark outside. This was the person walking out of the garage, the very first person that we had seen walking out of the garage. And the photo on the right, as you could tell, it's much brighter because the sun was coming up. This was where Chris was walking to his truck to drive away with his dead family in his truck. So now we know that those sweaters are not the same length. So let's say the person in the left photo has longer legs and a shorter torso than the picture on the right. The picture on the right, this person looks like they have shorter legs and a longer torso, and the sweater is stretching down more than the other one. Now, in case this whole light setting is a little different, it may be tricky on the eyes and that big old bright light, I'm going to move the ruler over so you can see this at a different angle. Now, this one I moved over, I moved the ruler underneath that little white box that's on the wall there. That way, in case these people's heads were confusing this light and my ruler, that at least I could be more accurate with this little white thing on the wall. So once again, once you drop that down, bring the other ruler in, you can see at the arrow, it's pointing at 3 inches again. And the other one is at 4 inches. So there's still a big difference in that sweater length. So the question is this the same sweater as the first person walking out? Is this the same person that's walking in and out? This is a decision I will leave in your hands. I think you can catch my drift on where I'm going with this. I just thought this was really, really important to bring to the public's eye.
Well, that is very interesting. What do you guys think about that? That was a really good video. I cannot believe I've never seen that before. How did I miss that? I don't know. I see many of you think that it does look like there's a difference. Nancy is making the point like this. Hi, Nancy. How are you, honey? They are not even in the same spot in those pictures. This negates her point. So you're saying it's not like a scientific analysis. She's not using scientific method strategies to make these comparisons when doing the measurements. So, I mean, I agree with that because I'm like a scientific method person. But yeah, I know. I feel like it's analyzing it in that way is really hard to do with the footage we have, which is another point you made because of that damn bush. That damn bush. And thank you so much for the super chat, fan lady. I appreciate you. Stacia says, and thank you for all the contributions you've made. I appreciate your comments this evening. And welcome. There's no way anyone will convince me he dragged Shanann Watts out the front for all his neighbors to see. There were tire tracks leading up to the back fence. Yeah, we've seen pictures of that before, haven't we? And we don't know if they were his tire tracks. I mean, oh, thank you, fan lady. It would have been good if law enforcement would have analyzed all that stuff, but they didn't. Oh, thank you for the super chat, MM. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I always love reading your comments on videos, and I appreciate your support. And you're beautiful as well. Thank you, darling. And echoing Nancy Ann's point, too much. Mom says I love your name. There are too many variables in this photo. Yeah, I see what you're saying with that. I understand. I get that. So, all right. So one of the reasons, that many people feel that, NK was in suspicious places in that morning, not only is there all the history of their relationship and everything that she had to say and Chris had to say, and just the possessive, weird nature of it, and just all the other things that we talked about. There also is, of course, the issue of that 6:16 a.m. ping. So I'm just going to play a little of this video that probably a lot of you have seen where I explained the significance of this ping and of the phone records in general. Let me try to get to the juiciest part of it. I don't freaking know. I can't remember. Let's see. I'm just going to see what I'm saying here. Chris Watts left his driveway after we saw. Okay. Through this case. After August 13th, really the only interesting things that happened on Nicole Kessinger's cell phone were her searches asking if police could find deleted text messages and some other shady things. Because remember, or if you don't know this, let me tell you that Nicole Kessinger deleted all of her text messages and any interaction record that existed on her phone between herself and Chris Watts. Apparently, she did this on Tuesday, August 14th, and she says that's because she just learned on that day that Chris Watts' beautiful wife, Shanann Watts, was 15 weeks pregnant. Now, that comes into major question, but that's a whole different topic, a whole different ballgame. And I've covered that in other videos and just might have to cover it again. And so if we do look at the phone records from July 13th to August 13th, we see that Nicole Kessinger's phone pinged in Frederick, Colorado, a total of 3 times in that time period. We also have a record that her phone pinged in Frederick, Colorado on July 4th, which I'm just going to set that to the side for now because it's not within that July 13th to August 13th timeframe I'm talking about. But she and Chris Watts both acknowledged that she was in Frederick, Colorado on July 4th. So when we're looking at the 3 Frederick, Colorado pings in that July 13th to August 13th timeframe, one was on July 14th. And this is also a day that Chris Watts and Nicole Kessinger both agree that she was in Frederick, Colorado. Now, in my opinion, July 14th was an absolutely pivotal day in this case. And I believe this is the day when Chris Watts started putting the plan into motion. This was the day when, after one of their outings, I believe they went to the Mustang Museum, they went back to Chris Watts' house, and on this day, Nicole Kessinger claims that the dog Dieter strong-armed her into going upstairs where she saw a picture of Shanann and one of the girls. And she claims on that day, she started questioning Chris as to why he's not staying with his wife. She even went so far as to assert that she encouraged him, starting on this day, to stay with his wife. Now, one of my favorite comments that people leave on my channel is, said no side piece ever. I really do agree with that. The other time, or the second time of the third, when we're talking about the pings on Nicole Kessinger's cell phone in Frederick, Colorado, from July 13th to August 13th, is on July 18th. Now, this ping was actually initiated from Chris Watts' phone. He was also in Frederick, Colorado on that day, and he was calling Nicole Kessinger. I think she was kind of like, hanging around there. There was some story told about getting touch-up paint for her car that was perhaps picked up on that day. So of all of the pings from Nicole Kessinger's cell phone from July 14th to August 13th, the third time that she pinged in Frederick, Colorado was on the morning of August 13th at 6:16 a.m. This is a critical time because this would be right around the time, a little bit after the time that Chris Watts left his driveway after we saw, based on the security camera footage from neighbor Nate's security camera, that he had been packing his car for about half an hour, and then he took off heading to Survey 319, where later that week, the bodies of his beautiful wife, Shanann, 15 weeks pregnant, his daughter, Bella, and his daughter, Cece, were found. Okay, now I think it was Manda Kay who made such a good point during, I think it was our most recent live stream when, we were, I don't know, somehow the 6:16 a.m. ping was like an ancillary topic. And she made this great point that, I think, some of us have kind of had in mind, but she just said it so well. Just that, like, I'm pulling up the discovery here. Okay. The fact that Nicole Kessinger pinged at 6:16 a.m., by the Watts house from my research, according to the experts who have weighed in on this, within 300 to 400 yards of the Watts house, and I am damn sure of that. That's like the top, like the farthest extending distance. So it was under 300 or 400 yards. I hope I could say that right. It was at 6:16 a.m. Nicole Kessinger knew exactly when Chris Watts got to work. She talked about it in her interviews a few times. She worked with him. He left really early. He got into work early every day. She knew that. She knew that he was always at work by 6:16 or around there, that he was definitely not just leaving his house at 6:16 a.m. So the point Manda Kay made was, when people are saying, well, maybe she was just like driving by because she was just being a jealous, bitchy, skanky empanada and she wanted to see, if Chris was still there or whatever. Like, what? No, she already knew he wasn't there. And she knew that Shanann got home in the wee early morning hours of Monday morning at the very least. Maybe she already knew that she was deceased. We don't know. Maybe she did. So what would the value for her be in just driving by that house, arriving at her drive-by spot at 6:16 a.m.? It would be completely pointless. And I thought that was such a good point. So as we see here in the geotab data in the discovery, highlighted here in yellow, Chris Watts leaves his house at no. Hold it. Chris Watts turns on his car. I guess maybe we need to see more of this across. Yeah. Turns on his car. Yes, that's right. Okay. At 5:18 and 32 seconds a.m. And then he leaves 2825 Saratoga Trail at 5:46 a.m., arriving at 3319 at 6:53 a.m. So he leaves at around 5:45 a.m., right around the same time he would be leaving, or just a little bit later than any other day, as probably as to not seem suspicious. He wants to look like he's doing the same thing as any other day. And Nicole Kessinger knew that. So explaining away her ping at 6:16 a.m. right by the Watts house is saying, oh, she was just checking out, seeing what was going on. Like, what would be the value? There'd be no point in her doing that. And she knew that. She knew Chris would be gone. And it's not like she's going to get a glimpse of Shanann unless she knew what happened to Shanann. As far as she knew, Shanann was in bed sleeping. So yeah. Oh, first time that you see me in full screen mode at 180. Yes, that was me in the video. Let's see. Yeah. So what do you guys think about that? Sorry, I'm just getting down to current comments here. Trying to. So many good comments. I wish I could read them all right now. Just helping him with his macros. Right. That was her go-to excuse. Anytime she didn't want to answer the question to law enforcement about what the heck she was doing, like on July 4th, when she tells law enforcement, she doesn't explain how she showed up there, but it's because Chris Watts left her apartment because Shanann was calling and was really mad and she was pissed about it. So she just makes her way to his apartment, even though according to them, they'd only been dating for a few days. How the hell did she know where he lived or know how to get there? I don't know. We don't know. But anyway, she got there. So when, Kobach asked her what they talked about, oh, she was helping set up MyFitnessPal and talking about his macros, and they ate chicken and carrots. And then, and in my next video from the Bombshell series, we're going to talk more about this. But, when investigators asked her about what they talked about at the Lazy Dog Cafe, oh, they just spent the whole time talking about his macros. She had to get it dialed in. She wrote it, so she didn't know why it wasn't dialed in and all that stuff. So, there's two occasions where she says the whole conversation for the duration of the time that is in question, they were talking about his freaking diet and macros when we know that was not at all the case. Yeah, not at all. Nope. Home wrecker's gonna home wreck. That's right. Yes. His carpet was wet and we were on the floor. All these details. I just sat on the floor. He just shampooed his carpet. Yeah, but she can't remember a damn detail of the 111-minute phone conversation, except for that he told her the next morning he was going to be going straight out to the field. Yeah, good point. Yep. Yeah, who goes on a date and starts talking about macros? Right, exactly. Oh my gosh. Well, I am going to get wrapped up soon because I have to work in the morning and, it's the start of a busy week at my career job. She was on the floor once before, I reckon. I'm sure she was, Jody, and a whole lot of other places. Oh my gosh. Oh, hope everything's okay, Stevie. Yeah, Supero says she knows a whole lot about she knows a whole lot for a couple weeks old relationship. She sure does, doesn't she? Yeah. Yeah. Marco says, like I said, NK spills out the details until she doesn't. Right. Fitness people would definitely talk about macros. I don't know. Not that whole time. Macros. Like, come on. Oh, good. Glad to hear that, Stevie. Addicted to cheese and had to get a quesadilla. As long as it's not empanada, we're good. Yeah, Mac roasted her out. Yes. No, you're the best. Thank you guys for being here. So, all right, guys. Well, I guess I am going to wrap it up. I have some videos coming out this week. Watts, Soto, and I'm working on Ellen Greenberg. I just want to put out a really good comprehensive video about all the crap that's gone down in that horrible investigation. She's the woman who was in Philadelphia. She lived in Philadelphia when I lived in Philadelphia. In fact, she came to my yoga class once or twice. I had met her just in passing, while she was alive, once or twice that I know of, possibly more. Apparently she popped in for classes. I don't think she was a member at this one fitness place where I taught yoga and Pilates. Apparently she did Pilates, but I just remember her coming to my yoga class very specifically. I remember this from when I first learned about this years and years ago. I was really surprised when it recently came back into the news because I didn't even realize that was something people were talking about, like on a national or international scale. I thought I was just aware of it because I had encountered this person in life, and she was from Philadelphia. That's where I lived for over 20 years until I moved back to New York. So anyway, she had, I believe it was 20 or 22 stab wounds, including to the back of her neck, to the top of her head, and places where you simply wouldn't stab yourself. Her spinal cord was severed, and she received stab wounds after that. Severing your spinal cord, if you don't know, is going to render you dead or, incapacitated, let's say. And there were other suspicious things, that happened. Like she was just making a fruit salad while this happened, still had the dish rag and the knife to cut the fruit in her hand. She had bruises, around her neck, and including nail marks, like she was strangled at first. This was considered certainly a homicide because obviously it is. And then there was some strange meeting among people in the prosecutor's office, the investigative agency, and the medical examiner. And after that, the medical examiner changed the manner of death to suicide, which is absolutely impossible. Just recently, the parents, her poor parents, she was their only child, this beautiful girl. She was, I think, 24, just getting ready to get married. There's an extremely curious 911 call from her fiance. But the parents had made a procedural breakthrough with what is going on in this case. And they have a lot of hope now that they're actually going to find justice for Ellen. In this case, it's very close to my heart. It's really interesting. Nancy Grace has been covering a lot. She became friends with the parents of Ellen Greenberg. So check it out. And Nancy, if you're interested in this story, I'm going to be putting a video out about it soon. Don't worry, Ellen. We gotcha. We're going to make sure you get justice too, and to her parents. I just, have so much love for them. And this case absolutely needs to be talked about, along with, of course, sweet Maddie Soto and always the victims of the Watts case. So we will continue to search for justice for all of these people whose lives mattered and are very missed and loved by their family members and friends, and we still care about them as well. Great comment, local jazz hands. These coroners need their bank accounts forensically analyzed. Yeah, they do. In a situation like that, hell yeah. That's right. Hi, Tracy Pope. Nice to see you. Anaphylaxis, how are you doing? All right, guys. So all that's coming up. Oh, well, you too. And thank you for being here and just we're all in the fight together for sure. So thank you guys. Thank you. And I will be scheduling a live stream later this week. It won't be tomorrow. It won't be Tuesday. It probably won't even be Wednesday. It'll probably be Thursday or Friday. I've got a lot going on this week at work. But hopefully I'll be dropping a video before then. So much love to you guys. And remember, life is hard, and please be nice to each other, and mostly be awesome to yourself because you deserve it. I know you do. You guys are all amazing. So remember that. Do something nice for yourself tonight or tomorrow. If you're about to go to bed, write yourself a little post-it note and make sure you do it tomorrow because you deserve it. And I know you don't do enough good for yourself. I just know you don't. So start doing it. Okay. All right. So much love to everybody. And I hope to see you later this week. And I will be reading your comments to any videos you watch in the meantime. Yeah, Stacia, thank you for being here, for everything you contributed. All right. Bye, guys. Thank you, moderators. Love you guys. My email is wattsobsession@gmail.com. So that's wattsobsession@gmail.com. I'll be looking for your email.